Hi, I'm Michael O'Giblin, a violinist with the Fort Wayne Philharmonic and the creator of orchestraexcerpts.com. And this is a tutorial on the violin excerpts for the 2017 National Youth Orchestra at Carnegie Hall. And in this video, I'm going to share with you some bowing and fingering options so that you can get started learning these excerpts right away, and also the smart way to practice them so you'll get the most out of every practice time. And also some mistakes to avoid so that you'll be way ahead of the competition. And ultimately, hopefully share with you the correct way to approach these excerpts so that you can perform in 2017 with the National Youth Orchestra at Carnegie Hall. Now, there are a lot of files in the download packet, so make sure you have downloaded them because I'll be referring to them throughout these videos. But two things you have to watch out for are that if you are crossing strings, you have to be careful that the second note in each group doesn't get clipped or dropped or like a crunched sound even. So sometimes the tendency sounds like this, where you don't really hear the second note. And so we want to make sure that we hear the second note very clearly. A great way to practice those two measures is to practice it just with the open strings to really see what the right arm has to do. Yeah. And then put the fingerings back in. So this excerpt starts on the string. And what I do is I just get my bow set. I've tilted it a little forward, and I just use my fingers to pick up the bow, sort of a collet stroke. That's all I do, because this stroke is going to happen multiple times throughout this excerpt. So in order to get the bow to bounce, I need to give it a little bit of down force. It's kind of like bouncing a basketball, that in order to get it to start bouncing, you have to give it a little bit of downforce, and so the bow is much the same way. For the eighth notes that are coming up, it's a little bit of a different stroke. It's more controlled than that. One of the best things you can do. The other thing I'll say about this opening is that the rhythmic integrity of the measure is really important, and what that means is that some of the tendency is to wait too long on this eighth note and then compress the 4 16th notes. Something like that, so that those are too scrunched together. And it's something that just putting the metronome on each measure doesn't really expose, because you can still kind of compress and stretch and compress within each measure. So something you can do to combat that is to practice solid 16th notes. Something like that. So to make sure that you're not kind of fudging the rhythm anywhere in there. So like I said, to get started, I think about the melody at letter A. I think dum, dee, dum, dum, with that tempo going in my head. I get started in third position, by the way. So a couple things about the opening. I make sure that I have my first finger solidly on the G, and the third finger on the E flat. And then I really want to connect this high G to the B flat so that I have a nice connected phrase. And then the other thing is that with Mozart, at the end of phrases, we always want to come away from the phrase. So we want to place a little bit more emphasis on this E flat than I do on the D. I never want to play, and this is going to be more pronounced in later parts of the excerpt I'll get into, but keep that in mind as we move forward. So 4 things we need to watch out for is that we're holding the first eighth note long enough, and that then make sure that we're not playing a triplet rhythm, that we're always having 4 subdivisions. don't play a triplet. We want to make sure that we have all those subdivisions there. And we want to make sure that we're holding the second eighth note for its full value. And then the fourth thing is that we are not clipping the rest at all, that we are waiting the full amount of time. Sort of doing the wrong versions of all of that would sound something like... which is hard to do. So again, the correct way would be more like...